All right, hello and welcome to this training. As you can see from the title, what we're going to be covering today is the Manifestation Quadrant. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to be talking about more specifically is first the overview itself, then desire as the origin signal, belief as the amplifier, behavior as the bridge, and the field as the mirror. And after that, the review and your action items for the day or the next few days. Now, if you like content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below to let me know what you'd like to see next. If you want to work with me one-on-one, then make sure to book a call from the link in the description, join the community from the link in the description, join the newsletter again from the link in the description. With that said, let's get started and talk about desire as the origin signal. So what most people get wrong about manifestation is that they think it's about thinking positive thoughts and hoping really hard, but that's really not how it works. And I think most of us know this. Manifestation is actually a frequency game, and your results, or lack of them, are a direct reflection of the signal you're putting out into the world. Now, the problem is most people are broadcasting static. They want one thing, they believe another thing, and they act a third way, and then they wonder why nothing is really showing up. So this training is going to break down exactly how the process works step by step so that you can finally align your inner frequency with your outwards actions and start getting actual results. So we're going to cover the 4 core pieces: your desire, which is the signal, your belief, which is the amplifier, and your behavior, which is the bridge, and then the field, which is the mirror. And each one of these matters equally. And if you get them all working together, then manifestation really stops being something you try and starts being something that just happens. So before we get into it, we need to start at the very beginning, meaning what do you actually want? And I know this sounds a bit obvious, but it's where most people trip up. They've got this fuzzy sense of more or better that is basically floating around in their head, but nothing concrete enough to actually work with. And the thing is, the universe, the nature, mind, whatever you want to call it, responds to specificity. We've talked about this many times, and if your desire is vague, well, your results will be vague too. If your desire is borrowed from someone else's vision of success, your results won't feel like they're yours, even if they show up. So this section is really about getting clear, getting deep, and getting committed to a desire that's truly yours, because that clarity is what generates the signal that starts the whole process. Now, everything starts with knowing, and knowing what you actually want. And I mean really knowing it, because most people walk around with this vague sense, as I said, of I want more or I want better, without ever sitting down to get specific, which is a problem since the signal you're sending out is basically static noise. It's this fuzziness, right? That the universe can't really interpret or respond to clearly. So when you take the time to define your desire in sharp, vivid detail, you're essentially tuning your internal radio to a specific frequency, and that frequency becomes the thing you broadcast whether you're aware of it or not. So the more precise you get, the cleaner the signal, the faster the match. And this means you can see it, feel it, almost taste it. The job, the relationship, the body, the business, whatever it is that you want, you've got to hold it in your mind with enough texture that it feels real to your mind's eye before it's real in the real world. So your desire is the seed, the starting point of the whole manifestation chain. And if that seed is weak or confused or borrowed from someone else's vision of success, then everything downstream, belief, behavior, results, all of that gets contaminated by that original confusion. So it's worth asking yourself, is this actually what I want? Or is this what I think I should want based on social pressure or family expectations or some Instagram version of success? And once you claim a desire as truly yours, well, something changes, because now you're not chasing someone else's dream, you're stepping into your own frequency, and that ownership is what gives the desire its pull. So surface level wants, like I want more money, don't really carry the same energetic weight as soul level desires, such as I want financial freedom so I can create without constraint and take care of my family. You see how that is different, right? Going deeper into the why behind the want is what gives your desire actual gravitational force. And you can think of it like this: the shallow want is the what, but the deep desire is the why underneath it. And when you connect that to that deeper layer, your whole being aligns with it, which makes the frequency way more coherent and way more powerful. And that deeper motivation is what keeps you locked in when things get hard, because you're not just chasing a number anymore or some kind of a status symbol. You're chasing a feeling, a lifestyle, a vision, essentially, a version of yourself that actually matters to you. And when your desire resonates at that deeper level, it stops being something you want and starts being something you embody, which is exactly when the field starts responding in kind. So do the work of excavating your real desire and ask yourself, why do I want this? And you can ask yourself that 3 or 4 times to go deeper and deeper until you hit something that actually moves you, something that makes your chest tight or even your eyes water, because that's the signal worth broadcasting. And this requires honesty with yourself and maybe even some discomfort, because sometimes the real desire is buried under shame or fear or years of being told of what you should want instead of what you actually want. And as you excavate, you'll probably refine the desire itself, making it sharper and really more aligned with who you really are, which only strengthens the frequency you're putting out. A lot of the times we also get these desires that are really just, we saw someone have something and now we want it, but really we don't really want it, right? So once you've got clarity on what you want and why you want it, what you really want, what is coming out of you, not from comparing yourself to others or listening to your family about what you should want, what you really want and why you want it, the next move is to commit to it fully and not halfway, right? 100% commitment to the thing. Not let's see if this works, but a real decision that closes off all other options and tells the universe or nature or whatever you want to call it that you're serious. And a decision at its root means to cut off. The word decision actually comes from the Latin decidere, which literally means to cut off. So when you decide on a desire, you're cutting off the escape routes, you're cutting off the backup plans, the maybe I'll just settle for less mentality that dilutes your frequency and keeps you stuck in limbo. And there's power in that finality, in saying that this is what I'm creating, this is what I want, period. Because that kind of certainty sends a very different signal than I hope this works out. And when your decision is final, and your thoughts and your emotions and your actions start to naturally align with it, that's how you go from wishing to really manifesting, to creating things in your life, to bringing things from vision to reality. Now, the strongest desires are the ones you treat as irreversible, meaning the ones where failure isn't even a mental option, because that level of commitment changes how you show up, how you think, how you feel, and ultimately what you attract. And you can insert the Marty Supreme, the famous Marty Supreme scene in here. That doesn't even enter my consciousness. And so certainty is magnetic, and people, opportunities, resources, all of them can feel it on you, which is why the most successful manifestors aren't the ones who tried to manifest something, but the ones who knew it was already theirs. So you need to anchor your desire in certainty and revisit it daily and speak it out loud, write it down, visualize it, do whatever you need to do to keep that signal strong and unwavering, and watch what starts to shift. And the thing here is your desire isn't just a thought, it's a frequency. This is the key, right? The key insight. You're emitting into the world around you. That desire is something you emit all around you. And that frequency is what determines what gets reflected back. So the clearer, the more committed your desire, the cleaner the frequency, the more precise the manifestation. So you're always emitting something, whether you're conscious of it or not, and whether you believe in this or not. If you don't believe in this, you can just call it a vibe, essentially. So the question is, are you emitting the frequency of what you want, or the frequency of doubt, fear, of insecurity, of I don't really believe this will happen? Building awareness around what you're broadcasting is half the battle. Because once you notice the static, the doubt, the negativity, the contradictory thoughts, you can start to clean it up. And with intention, you can shift your emission from reactive, meaning based on circumstances, to proactive, meaning based on your chosen desire, which is how you take control of the manifestation process in the first place. So the goal is coherence, meaning your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are all vibrating at the same frequency as your desire. Because when there's internal conflict, meaning you want abundance, for example, but feel scarcity, the signal gets scrambled and the field doesn't really know what to mirror back. So think of yourself as a tuning fork. The more unified your internal state, the more powerful and clear the frequency, and the faster the external world rearranges itself to match. And this is why daily practices like visualization or affirmation and emotional calibration matter. They're not woo-woo stuff. They're tools for keeping your frequency locked in on what you want, even when external circumstances are trying to pull you off course. Now, all of this works especially well if you have created space for those things to arrive into your life. So I'm not contradicting myself here with other trainings I've made. All of this works way better when you've actually made space for the things you actually want into your life. Otherwise, there's that contradiction again, right? There's no coherence there if there is no space for those things to really arrive into your life. So your actions, again, need to match the desire, and you need to create space for those things to actually come into your life. With that said, let's talk about belief as the amplifier. So you've got your desire locked in, you know what you want and why you want it, but here's where a lot of people hit a wall. They want something they don't actually believe is really possible for them. And that gap between desire and belief is the real bottleneck here. That's what kills the whole thing before it even gets started. And you can think of it this way: your desire is the signal, it's the thing you emit, but your belief is what determines how loud that signal gets broadcast. Low belief means a weak signal that gets drowned out by doubt. High belief means a signal so strong the universe, life, nature, whatever you want to call it, can't ignore it. And this section is really about understanding how belief works and why most of your beliefs are running on autopilot from childhood programming, and how to actually rewire them so that your internal state supports what you're trying to create. So you've got your desire locked in, but the thing is, desire alone isn't enough, because if you don't actually believe it's possible for you, your frequency is basically whispering into a void, which is why belief acts as the amplifier that takes your desire from a quiet signal to a broadcast the universe can't ignore. And this is why I've also made trainings before talking about how delusional people a lot of the times become more successful. It's because of that delusional belief in themselves. So think of belief as the volume knob on your manifestation, where low belief equals a weak signal that gets drowned out by doubt and noise, while high belief cranks that signal up to the point where it cuts through everything and demands a response. So the strength of your belief directly correlates to the speed and the precision of your manifestation, which is why two people can have the same desire but get wildly different results based on how much they actually believe it's coming. And conviction isn't something you fake, it's something you build through evidence, through repetition, and through identity work, which we'll get into later. But belief is also about permission, meaning you have to believe you're allowed to have what you want, that you're worthy of it, and that it's meant for you, because a lot of people sabotage their desires with the subconscious beliefs like, people like me don't get things like that. And worthiness is huge here. And if you've got deep-rooted stories about not being good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, whatever enough, those beliefs will cancel out your desire every single time until you address them. And I don't mean entitlement, right? I don't mean entitlement in a negative way. I mean a healthy sense of, I deserve this, that gives your desire the energetic backing it needs to actually materialize. Because at the end of the day, what is so different between you and the person that actually has the things that you want is the fact that they think they deserve it, right? They think that they can go out and get it because they do deserve it. And why would they deserve it and you wouldn't, right? So here's where it gets tricky. Most of your beliefs aren't conscious. They're running in the background like old software that was installed in childhood. And if that software is programmed with scarcity, limitation, or unworthiness, it will override your conscious desires no matter how badly you want something. So your subconscious mind is basically a recording of your past, and it's running the show about 95% of the time, which means your conscious desire, I want to be wealthy, is constantly fighting against the subconscious programming of money is hard to get, or rich people are bad, etc. So this internal conflict is what creates the frequency leak I mentioned earlier, where you're broadcasting one thing consciously but a completely different thing subconsciously, and that the field responds to the dominant signal, which is usually the subconscious one. So the first step is really becoming aware of your subconscious beliefs, which you can do by looking at your results. Like your life is a mirror of your beliefs, and noticing your automatic thoughts and paying attention to what triggers resistance or fear in you, right? And once you've identified the limiting beliefs, the work is to reprogram them. And this happens through repetition, affirmations, visualization, emotional experiences like feeling the new belief as true, and other methods, which I'm not going to get into here. And just evidence stacking, meaning collecting proof that the new belief is valid. Now, repetition is key because the subconscious learns through consistency. So saying your affirmations once doesn't really do much, but saying them daily for months starts to override the old programming with something a bit more aligned. And emotion is the accelerant here, because the subconscious doesn't just respond to words. We read words and listen to words all day long. It responds to feelings. So when you visualize your desire with intense positive emotion, you're imprinting that belief at a deeper level. Now, one of the most practical ways to build belief is to stack evidence, meaning you actively look for and collect proof that your desire is possible and that it's already starting to manifest in small ways, because evidence is what turns hope into certainty, right? Your brain is wired to believe what it sees repeatedly and what it sees as true. So if you keep feeding it proof that your desire is possible, meaning stories of others who've done it, small wins in your own life, synchronicities, etc., it all starts to accept the new belief as fact. And every small win is a deposit in your belief bank. So celebrate them, write them down, remind yourself of them if you have to every day, because those little victories are evidence that your frequency is working and that the field is responding. And as you collect evidence, you'll start to notice patterns and synchronicities that you might have missed before, which further reinforces the belief and creates positive feedback loops. Other people's success stories are also very powerful here because they show your brain that the thing you want is actually achievable, which is why immersing yourself in books, podcasts, movies, videos, etc., and communities of people who've manifested or achieved similar things can be incredibly useful for belief building. When you study how others did it, you're not just getting strategy, you're getting a belief transfer, essentially. And so this is why proximity matters as well, because being around people who believe big and achieve big naturally elevates your own belief, while staying in environments of doubt and scarcity keeps you vibrating low, right? This is why we talk a lot about the people you surround yourself with. So the deepest level of belief is identity, meaning you don't just believe you can have the thing, you believe you are the kind of person who has that thing, because identity level beliefs are the most powerful and the hardest to really shake. Now, manifestation is really about becoming, and when you shift your identity to match your desire, such as I'm wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm in a loving relationship, your beliefs, thoughts, and behaviors naturally follow because they're just expressions of who you are. And so this is embodiment, where you stop chasing the thing and start being the person who already has it, which is a subtle but massive shift that changes your entire frequency from wanting to having naturally, right? And when your identity is congruent with your desire, there's no internal conflict, there's no frequency leak, just a clean signal that the field responds to quickly and precisely. So identity level affirmations such as I am statements are powerful for this, but they have to be backed by a feeling and action. Otherwise, your subconscious will just reject them as lies, and you can still keep repeating them and use repetition to your advantage. So say I am abundant while feeling abundant and acting abundant, and watch how fast things start to change. The goal is to integrate the new identity so fully that it stops feeling like an affirmation and starts feeling like a fact, which takes time and consistency, but yeah, it's absolutely achievable with deliberate practice. And this bridges directly into the next section, because once you believe at the identity level, your behavior naturally changes to match, which is how belief translates into action and action translates into results. So let's talk about behavior as the bridge. Now, this is where we get to the part that a lot of manifestation teachings really gloss over, which is action. And there's this idea floating around that you can just think your way into results, and that if your vibration is high enough, stuff will just fall into your lap. And look, there's some truth to the inner game being primary, but the world also responds to movement, to action. So your behavior is the bridge between your internal frequency and the external world. It's how you prove to yourself, to others, to the world, and to the field that you're actually serious. And it's how you anchor your desire and belief into physical reality. So this section is really about aligned action, the micro behaviors that compound, the frequency leaks that sabotage you, and why what you do matters just as much as what you think and feel. So desire and belief are internal, but the universe responds to action, and behavior is basically the bridge that takes your internal frequency and anchors it into the physical world where things can actually materialize. Now, your actions are a signal to the universe that you're serious, that you're not just sitting around wishing and hoping, but actually moving towards what you want. And that signal of commitment and investment tells the field to meet you halfway. When you invest time and energy and resources into your desire, you're putting skin in the game, and that investment creates a kind of gravitational pull that draws the manifestation closer because you've demonstrated you're ready to receive it. You're doing the actions necessary. And readiness matters because the universe won't give you something you're not ready for or don't have space for. And one of the ways you prove readiness is through action that says, I'm preparing for this, or I'm making room for this, I'm showing up for this. And so the key is that your actions have to be aligned with your desire and belief, meaning if you say you want wealth, but you're behaving like someone who's broke, meaning not investing, not learning, not creating any value, your behavior is contradicting your frequency and canceling out your manifestation. Everybody wants to be rich. Not everybody is providing enough value to the world in order to become rich, right? So congruence is everything. So look at your daily behaviors and ask, are these the behaviors of someone who has what I want, or are these the behaviors of someone who's still stuck in the old identity? And this might mean an honest audit of your habits, of your routines, of your spending, of your time allocation, of your relationships, because often we're sabotaging ourselves through behaviors we've never really questioned. So you don't have to take massive action right away, because it's the micro behaviors, the small daily actions that compound over time, the boring, monotonous stuff that actually do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to bridging desire into reality. And James Clear talks about this a lot in Atomic Habits, meaning And he says habits are the compound interest of self-improvement, meaning the tiny things you do every day are what shape your trajectory. So a small aligned action taken daily is way more powerful than a huge effort once in a while, because the daily action keeps your frequency calibrated and signals ongoing commitment to the field, and it also creates your identity as the person who just does this stuff. And so those small actions build momentum, which creates a feeling of progress, which strengthens belief, which amplifies your frequency, which attracts more aligned opportunities, and you can see how it all loops together. So creating behavioral rituals around your desire is smart, meaning you have specific times and actions that reinforce your frequency, like a morning visualization routine or a weekly review or a gratitude log, whatever keeps you connected to the desire and acting on it. And structure supports freedom here, because when you have rituals, you don't have to rely on motivation or willpower. You just do the thing because that's what you do at that time, and the consistency keeps your frequency locked in. And eventually those rituals become automatic. They become part of who you are. They seep into the identity level, which is how behavior shifts from effortful to effortless. And that's when manifestation really starts to feel like it's happening to you rather than something you're forcing. Now, let's talk about frequency leaks, which are basically behaviors that contradict your desire and belief. And these leaks are often invisible to us because they're habitual, but they're actively sabotaging your manifestation by sending mixed signals to the field. So a leak might be something like you desire abundance, but you constantly complain about money. Or you desire a healthy relationship, but you keep texting your toxic ex or flings from the past. Or you desire success, but you spend hours scrolling instead of working on your craft. Now, the first step is just noticing these contradictions, which requires honest self-observation. And once you see them, you can start to correct them, but you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. So correction isn't about perfection, but rather about trend, meaning you're gradually reducing the leaky behaviors and increasing the aligned ones. And over time, your overall signal gets cleaner and cleaner. So plugging the leaks is really a very practical process in which you identify the behavior first, then you understand what need it is meeting, meaning it could be comfort, avoidance, or some kind of short-term pleasure, and then you find an aligned alternative that meets the same need without contradicting your frequency. So replacement is more effective than pure elimination, because if you just try to stop a behavior without replacing it, the need it was meeting will find another outlet, often another leaky behavior. And so you need to be patient with yourself, because some leaks have been there for years and they're wired into your nervous system, and unwiring them takes time, but every leak you plug increases the coherence of your frequency. And here's the thing about behavior that most people miss. Your actions don't just affect the physical world, they also affect the field, because behavior is frequency made visible, and the field reads your behavior as a statement of who you are and what you expect and what you actually want. So every action you take is a statement to the universe or to life or to nature, whatever you want to call it. Again, it's either saying, I believe this is coming and I'm preparing for it, or I don't really think this is going to work out, so I'll just stay comfortable. So the field responds to expectation, and expectation is communicated through behavior. So if you're behaving like someone who expects success, well, the field starts arranging circumstances to match that expectation. And there's a trust element here too. Your aligned behavior demonstrates trust in the process, trust that your desire is on its way, and that trust is itself a frequency that the field responds to. So one powerful behavior is preparation, meaning you start acting as if the thing is already on its way. You make space for it, you get ready for it, you live in a state of expectancy rather than a state of longing. So making space might be literal, meaning cleaning out your closet for new clothes, setting up a home office for a business, or metaphorical, meaning creating time in your schedule or ending draining relationships. But the act of making space signals readiness. And this naturally transitions us into the final piece of the framework, which is the field itself, because once desire, belief, and behavior are aligned, the field becomes the mirror that reflects your internal frequency back as external reality. So let's talk about the field as the mirror. All right, so we've covered desire, the signal, belief, the amplifier, and behavior, the bridge. Now, we need to talk about the thing that ties it all together, which is the field. And this is the part that might sound a bit out there if you're new to this, but if you stick with me, you'll understand why the field is what turns manifestation from wishful thinking into a practical skill. Now, the field is basically the responsive fabric of reality that's constantly reading your frequency and reflecting it back to you as your circumstances. And it's why your outer world always seems to match your inner world, for better or worse. And if you don't believe in this stuff, you can see this just as a metaphor. Now, this section is about understanding how the field works, why there's sometimes a lag between inner shift and outer result, and how to read the feedback you're getting, and ultimately how to become such a clean vibrational match for what you want that the field has no choice but to deliver it. So what is the field exactly? You can think of it as the responsive intelligence that surrounds you, the fabric of reality that's constantly reading your frequency, society, the world, nature, your combined desire, belief, and behavior, and reflecting it back as your circumstances, your opportunities, your relationships, your results. Now, the field isn't random or indifferent. It's responsive, meaning it's always listening to what you're broadcasting and giving you back more of the same, which is why people who expect good things tend to find good things, and people who expect problems tend to find problems. And this is the matching principle at work. The field matches your frequency. So if you're vibrating at scarcity, you get scarcity. If you're vibrating at abundance, you get abundance. And changing your external reality starts with changing your internal frequency, your internal reality. So the field itself is neutral. It doesn't judge your frequency as good or bad. It just mirrors it, which means you have complete control over what gets reflected back once you learn how to tune your internal state. Now, your current reality is feedback from the field. It's showing you exactly what you've been broadcasting. And while that can be uncomfortable to accept a lot of the times because it means you've created your current circumstances, it's also empowering because if you created this, you can create something different. Now, this is what some people like to call radical accountability, meaning taking ownership of your frequency and therefore your results. And it's the mindset that separates manifestors from victims. So use your current reality as information, meaning look at what's showing up and ask yourself, what frequency created this? And then just adjust accordingly. One important thing to understand is that there's often a lag between shifting your frequency and seeing results in the field, because the physical world is denser than the energetic realm, right? And it takes time for your new frequency to rearrange physical circumstances. Now, this lag time is where most people give up because they do the inner work, they shift their frequency, and then they look at their circumstances and see nothing has changed yet. So they conclude this doesn't work and they fall back into old patterns. Now, persistence through the lag is crucial because the shift is happening on an energetic level before it becomes visible on the physical level. And if you give up during the lag, you're pulling the plug right before the breakthrough. And this is where faith comes in as well, trusting the process even when you can't see evidence yet, knowing that your new frequency is working behind the scenes to rearrange reality. That said, you can accelerate the lag by increasing the coherence of your frequency, making sure that your desire, your belief, and your behaviors are all aligned by raising the emotional intensity of your visualizations and by staying in a state of expectancy rather than doubt. So emotional intensity is like a signal booster because the field responds to feeling more than thought. So the more you can feel your desire is already real, the faster the field responds. And coherence, like we said earlier, means no internal contradictions, no frequency leaks, just a unified signal that the field can easily read and mirror. Now, as your frequency aligns, you'll start to notice synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that feel like the universe is winking at you. And these synchronicities are actually signs that the field is responding, that your manifestation is in motion. And a synchronicity might be running into someone who has exactly what you need, stumbling upon a resource you'd been looking for, or getting an unexpected opportunity that's perfectly aligned with your desire. These are the field's way of saying, I hear you. And pay attention to those synchronicities and let them strengthen your belief, because each one is evidence that your frequency is working, and the more you notice and appreciate them, the more they tend to show up. And even if you call this just confirmation bias, so be it, right? It's still working in your favor. So gratitude for synchronicities is powerful because gratitude itself is a high frequency state that attracts more of what you're grateful for and creates a positive feedback loop. And when synchronicities show up, follow them because they're often breadcrumbs leading you towards your manifestation, and ignoring them or dismissing them as just coincidence is like ignoring the field's guidance. You're actually basically turning the confirmation bias against you. And this is where intuition comes in, the gut sense that tells you to say yes to something, to reach out to someone, to take a seemingly random action. And that intuition is often the field communicating the next step. So trusting your intuition and following synchronicities is how you co-create with the field. It's a dance between your intention and the field's responsiveness, and the more you dance, the more fluid the manifestation becomes. And just to throw in something in here, a lot of the times those synchronicities come after something seemingly bad has happened, and you think that everything is going to worse, when in reality something is working in the background. So especially after seemingly bad things happen, or quote-unquote bad things happen, be on the lookout for those synchronicities, because a lot of the times those quote-unquote bad things that happen for a reason. And this is, I know I'm risking sounding very cliche here, but it's true. And ultimately, manifestation through the field is about becoming a vibrational match for what you want, so that the field has no choice but to reflect it back, because that's the law, right? The mirror reflects what's in front of it, and you are what's in front of the field. So you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, which is a paraphrase of something that Bill Goddard said repeatedly, and is the core truth of this whole framework. Change your internal state and the external world changes to match. Now, your state is your frequency. It's the combination of your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and behaviors, and managing your state is the most practical manifestation skill you can develop. And you have more control over your state than you think through practices like visualization or changing your inputs, breath work, movement, affirmation, environment design. All of these influence your frequency. So the final stage is embodiment, where you're no longer trying to manifest, but simply living as the person who has what you want. And at that point, manifestation becomes effortless because there's no gap between who you are and what you're calling in. Being is the end of seeking, because when you are the frequency of your desire, you've already arrived internally, and the external is just catching up, which it always does if you've done this correctly. And so this is the completion of the manifestation quadrant: desire, which is the signal; belief, which is the amplifier; behavior, which is the bridge; and field, which is the mirror. And it all starts with you, your frequency, your coherence, your commitment to becoming the vibrational match for everything you want, and your belief in your actions. So with that said, let's go over the review. We talked about the overview: desire as the origin signal, belief as the amplifier, behavior as the bridge, the field as the mirror, the review, and finally your action items for the day or the next few days. First, clarify and sit down and get ruthlessly specific about what you actually want and why, and dig past the surface want to the soul level desire and commit to it fully by writing it down and revisiting it daily until it's burned into your subconscious. Then do an honest audit of your beliefs and your behaviors to identify any frequency leaks, meaning those hidden contradictions where what you think or do doesn't really match what you want, and then start plugging them one by one through awareness, replacement, and repetition. And then finally, stop trying to manifest and start being the person who already has what you want. Shift your identity, align your state, follow the synchronicities, and trust that the field is always mirroring your frequency back to you. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this training and I hope it brought a lot of value. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below to let me know what you'd like to see next. If you want to work with me one-on-one, book a call from the link in the description. Join the free community to get this training along with its document. Join the newsletter to get weekly tips on health, wealth, love, and self. And finally, thank you for being here, and I'm going to see you in the next one.